So moving on to Portland and Seattle.
It's messy. It's very messy, very scary.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what the Patriot Act brought back in 2001 and 2002 when George Bush signed it in Congress and the House of Representatives passed it unanimously. Okay, this is what this brought.
And Democrats and Republicans keep extending it.
Absolutely.
They extend it all the time.
Once you are considered a terrorist in the United States, and by the way, let me make this very clear, okay? There's no public court hearing where they decide that you're a terrorist. There's no jury that decides that you're a terrorist. Basically, it's one judge, okay? And they go in front of him and they provide him the details, and they say, and the judge says yes or no. That's it. There's no court hearing. There's no nothing. The judge says yes, yes, they are terrorists. You can do it, or no, you can't. That's it. It's just one judge. There's no jury. There's nothing. There's no hearing. There's nothing. It's one judge. So if that one judge states that you are a terrorist, or the actions that you are doing are of a terrorist action, now you can be acted on by a federal agency, and your rights go away. You do not have access to the Miranda rights. You do not have access to. There's no hold limit time that they can keep you in custody. They can keep you as long as they want. Restrictions are taken off on methods that they can use to question you, and they can not give you bail. Very easily not give you bail because they can hold you as long as they want to. So there's video coming out in Portland, Oregon, and of Seattle of these men in with police logos, but in fatigues with face masks, coming up out of unmarked cars, putting people into custody, putting them in the unmarked cars and leaving. No, get on your knees, no stop, no do anything. Just straight down to business. It is the most efficient thing you will ever see. And it is it is the task force that has been put into place to quell terrorist organizations here in the United States. Now, is it right to these protesters that we react this way? Probably not. They're probably not terrorists. But I want you to know that having this ability in the United States, right, and how efficiently and quickly they have acted to quell this is efficient and impressive. And I just hope that my only hope from a conservative standpoint is that these people are given due process, that they are given access to a lawyer, that they're given access to a phone call, that they are not held. I guarantee they're not going to the city. They're not going to the city jail.
No, they're going to federal buildings.
Yeah. So my only hope is that they're given due process. They're able to call their families. They are able to get to a lawyer. But again, once you're marked a terrorist, you're not guaranteed any of those rights. So they can literally keep you in there as long as they want to, and keep you from talking to anyone for as long as they want to. And you're probably going to be questioned. It's we. I don't. This has to be a show. This has to be a show by Trump. That this is what I'm capable of, and this is what I'm willing to do. I'm not just going to send in the National Guard, who has to abide by the Geneva Convention and cannot act like this. I'm going to send in my feds, and they're going to act like you're a terrorist, and they're going to take you. You're going to take you into custody, and they're going to move you to a federal detention center, and you're not going to be able to see or talk to anybody for a really long time. And I guess he's hoping that this is going to be the punishment that it requires for other people to look and say, oh, maybe I don't want to protest anymore because I don't want to get put in a dark cell for a long period of time.
And that's what's scary, Jonathan. So they have been protesting in Portland for over a month. They have been peaceful protests, but as we know, police have incited violence. There were many publications, I think the Homeland Security even published one, citing the crimes, and really the worst crime that you have on there is painting graffiti on federal buildings and federal property, which granted it's a crime, but it's not worth of classifying somebody as a terrorist. They are not terrorists. They're people peacefully protesting and trying to call action to change the police brutality that we still see in this country, that it's just not changing, not going away, in some cases getting worse. And pretty much every night that they protest, they're met with police violence, tear gas, pushing people, arresting people, and it's something that they have a right to protest. But yeah, just this week when they start sending federal people, so they arrest people that they're going back home, that they don't know if they were protesting or not. They don't know what they did or to what level they were protesting, because they are arresting people that are even farther away, like in the suburbs. Most protests are taking place downtown, but they show up and they pick you up and from this unmarked car, they put you in there and take you to the federal courthouse. There are a couple people, I think they detained 13 people that were already charged. Some of them, they take them and then they release them. So it's
There was what I was just reading down in the search post. Apparently, like once they got in a cell, two regular police officers approached them and gave them Miranda rights, and then requested if he wished to speak. He said no, and they let him go.
yeah, that's what's crazy, right? They detain them, they let them go. Again, these people they're not terrorists. I guarantee it. I am more concerned with, besides being met with the police when they're protesting, there's also a lot of far right people that are geared up in military gear, and they show up and they try to provocate them and incite violence, and the police doesn't do anything about that. They push them around. There have been a lot of situations where protesters have been injured, and it's just getting dangerous. It's getting dangerous. It's crazy. People are not terrorists. They should not be classified as terrorists. There should be some oversight on why Trump is thinking that they are terrorists, but Congress is in recess. They're not doing anything right now in the middle of a pandemic and this absolute human rights violation that's going on in Portland.
Yeah, so I'm looking down through the list of things that they've been charged to do, and there's a lot of graffiti, with a few things that actually were bad.
What a
Like
scary crime, graffiti.
Broke a front window at the Hatfield courthouse. Please, that doesn't sound like a lot, but please understand that if you cause damage on a courthouse or federal property, that's a completely different animal. Graffiti in itself is not that bad, but if you target a federal building, that is bad. Graffiti, damaged and breached the fence around the Hatfield courthouse. Broke another window, cut a hole in the fence, remove the entire fence. Eventually, they got tired of messing with the fence and just took it completely down.
Stop making holes. Move it.
And then they attempted to remove the wooden barriers from the windows to protect it. They really wanted to get inside this building. And then here's where things got serious. 611, violent anarchists dismantle a section of the fence protecting the Edith Green Wyatt Federal Building. Please understand, once you start messing with a federal building, you're in a whole new level. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a courthouse or any federal building. Once you start messing with that, now you're dealing with federal government issues, and the federal government can send people in. If you mess with local areas, like businesses and things like that, the most that you're going to get is local police. Once you start messing with federal building, you give them a reason to send in the feds. And the feds play by a completely different set of rules than your local police do. So a little bit of recommendation, right? Some advice. If you're out there protesting, stay away from federal buildings. And if you're in a place where you can, help somebody else out, tell them not to mess with a federal building, because that gives them an excuse to send in the feds.
Yeah, no, and the part that like I was mentioning earlier is that they're just stopping people just because there's no probable cause, and they're just being stopped just because they know that they were protesting, but they don't know at what degree they were involved with the protests. So that is a rights violation. And
here's an interesting thing. On the 5th of this month, violent anarchists surrounded and blocked law enforcement from the area as extremists proceeded to attack police with thrown projectiles and large mortar-style fireworks.
Interesting. I wonder if they were trying to set up a zone like they did in Seattle.
2 Portland Bureau officers were injured by the crowd. They set fire to the Hatfield courthouse. So they removed the fence, broke some windows. Now they set fire to it. The mob was pushed completely out of the area. So violent anarchists held a night of rage in a 400 to 500 person protest evolved into riots, assaulting law enforcement officers and federal property. So, no, I mean, graffiti, yeah, I get it. But the rest of this stuff?
Yeah, but they're not even targeting the people who did that. And that's the concern.
Now they're just trying to stop it from growing into that.
They're going for everyone, for anyone.
Yeah, they don't want it to get back to that point again.
The mayor of Portland and the governor ask for the forces to leave the state and leave the city. Don't know if they will listen and do it, but it's just getting very, very violent and very scary. A lot of human right violations. And again, as usual, nobody's doing anything. They're letting Trump run with it. Haven't heard much.
Mess with DHS. Don't mess with the Department of Homeland Security. Once they show up, stay your butt in your house. I promise you. Don't do it.
Yep. That's all I have on that one. There are a lot of videos. Maybe we can link some of the videos that show how people just walking home are being pulled and taken into those unmarked vehicles. And again, a lot of them, they get taken out to the federal court. They get put in a cell, and then they're released. Some have been detained and charged, but again, there's no probable cause. They're being detained, and they're not following any of the rights that Americans are supposed to have because of that reason, that they're classified as terrorists, but they're not committing any terror attacks
until you attack a federal building.
But they're not detaining the people who.
No, but they're attempting to stop it from coming to that point again. They just now started showing up after all this had happened, after the the windows got broken and fire was set to it. Now the worry is it can get to that point again, and I completely understand where they're coming from. No, you're right. They're not arresting those people because those people probably aren't out anymore.
Yeah, they realize human rights violation.
They've been fingered by they've been noticed. They're just trying to stop that from happening again. They're trying to stop damage to the federal courthouse. They're trying to stop damage to federal buildings.
That's not how you stop them. That's not how you stop them. If you want to stop them, then go protect it. Don't just go put people in jail when they're walking home.
I mean, these people. I mean, for these videos I saw, it wasn't people. It wasn't people walking home. They were out protesting, but they weren't doing any violent acts. But they were definitely out there protesting, not just walking home.
Yeah,
I mean,
that too.
They had signs. They had signs and stuff. So I mean, they're trying to avoid it from getting to that point again. And at this point, don't mess with it. Don't mess with the Department of Homeland Security.
No, all they have to do, the feds, all they have to do is set up protection around the building. They don't have to go arrest people without any probable cause because that's a human rights violation.
Yeah, but it's legal.
What we got to do
with the Patriot Act.
I know. Yeah, it's legal with the Patriot Act. That Democrats and Republicans keep extending.
So, because the Patriot Act is not just that you can arrest people that you consider terrorists and keep them held forever. It also includes a bunch of surveillance programs that the government wants to continue. The ability to read your text messages and your cell phone and gather your location and your search history and your emails and everything else. Literally,
without probable cause.
Assume that your stuff is being read.
Yep.
Just assume it's all being read all the time. Just assume it is. I know people like to believe that they have, I use an encrypted text message app so they can read it. They can read it. Trust me. They can read it. And again, they don't have to have any probable cause that you're an actual terrorist. There are people's jobs whose literally is just to sit in front of a computer screen and read people's text messages. And there's a algorithm that goes out there and finds words and phrases that you say, and it'll automatically pop up on a screen and somebody will review it. 99.9% of the time, it's nothing, right? They're looking for that 0.1%. So just assume the reason the Patriot Act is extended is not because this is a terrorist thing. The reason it's extended is because of the Big Brother programs that are able to remain open because of it.
Yeah,
And
there's a lot of money involved in that because a lot of the people doing those inspections or setting up the software are contractors. And those contractors are lobbying Congress and pushing to keep that program going.
Yep, making big money. If you're ever curious about it, you can watch pretty much any Edward Snowden interview ever.
Yeah,
and he will go into great detail because he used to work for a
one of those contractors.
Yep, whose job was to monitor the general public of the United States. So just assume that all your stuff's being read and watched. If you have nothing to hide, like 99.9% of us, you have nothing to worry about.